welcome back to the podcast. I'm David Gumley from ADAPTOVATE, and today we are doing our first collaboration with Enterprise AI and their podcast, EAI Pulse. And I'm joined by Doug Ross, CEO of Enterprise AI. Welcome, Doug.
Very excited to be here, David. I'm normally on the other side of this, so it's great to be on this side. Well, I don't know yet. We'll find out.
We'll find out very soon. A couple of things I wanted to chat or sort of start this conversation with, Doug, is I guess more sort of big picture around everything in the world of AI. Where you sit currently with Enterprise AI, what are you seeing from a domestic perspective? You know, what are sort of the 2 or 3 themes you're seeing here in Australia versus what you're seeing around the world? And where are we, I guess, ahead of the curve potentially, and where are we behind?
Yeah, so a few things in there. So I just came back from Copenhagen, which was fun to see sort of what's happening over in Europe. I was over in the US late last year. So broadly speaking, in terms of sort of what the market's doing, I would say up until the start of this year, we were a little bit behind the 8 ball. I'd say that most companies were doing the personal productivity piece. So they'd put in Copilot, they'd put in ChatGPT. They'd found that the employees now and end of last year starting to find that the tool is somewhat good, but they might want to buy their own. And so people are starting to bring their own tool in. So we had that sort of interesting dynamic where, you know, you'd be given a tool at work and then you'd be buying your own for personal productivity and do that as well. It's sort of where Australia's been up until probably the last few months. Overseas, America is well, depends once again where you are, but certainly on the West Coast where I was spending most of my time, there is, you know, as you would probably guess, a lot of work going on, a lot of interest in trying to see how far they can drive AI. And then in Europe, you know, one of the areas that certainly Enterprise AI and ADAPTOVATE together have been sort of doing is specifically in building applications and building permits. Mm-hmm. And some of the work we've done in New South Wales and then across Australia and with companies like Civica is produce something that seems to be pretty much world leading. So there's the full spectrum there. You know, Australia as a full group, I think is probably more still in the personal productivity and really, you know, as the last few months, maybe at the start of this year, and then certainly with the budget announcement, getting to a point where AI is definitely more on the agenda from a real business process change sort of perspective. Mm-hmm. But still, you know, most people are sort of moving, most companies are moving from there to there. And then very specifically in some areas, like in building permits, I think Australia is really, really well positioned. Probably because of the problems we've got in terms of housing
market and
affordable housing.
Yep.
But, you know, certainly in a pretty good spot globally in terms of the technologies we've got and what we've tried to do. And the rest of the world is looking at us and saying, okay, well, that's really interesting. That's a lot further along than what we thought anybody would be, and certainly where we are. And we're seeing that in Scotland and in Austria and in Germany and in Poland and in, you know, in Denmark and in a number of places where, you know, what we've got and what we're showing, people are looking at and saying, that's pretty cool where you guys are at.
So just staying in the sort of planning, you know, development theme, and obviously we've made some significant headway, you know, ADAPTOVATE and Enterprise AI here, particularly in New South Wales, but sort of around Australia. What's the, you know, how far ahead are we from what you've just recently seen in Europe around that space? Anyway?
So there's broadly 2 areas that we work in. One is being an assistant and helping people that don't know much about it. So, you know, everybody from mums and dads, but then all the way through to developers about specifically what do I need to do to build this house or this thing or this addition in this council area or in this area, and helping make that happen. We call the assist side. So that part, we've seen that we are way ahead of everybody we've found, certainly overseas. You know, people are really excited about it because everybody starts to get the gist of, look, if we could help people understand how to write a building permit better, we'd get higher quality permits, we'd make customers happier because they'd get answers to their questions, and we'd be in a situation where we'd get high quality and therefore we'd get more building permits through. So that's sort of part 1. Yep. And then the part 2 is the assessment side of it, where we're actually helping. This is part of where the Civica integration and partnership as moving to be able to help council workers be able to assess what they're doing faster and easier with the augmentation of AI there as well. And that includes document checking and all these things. And in that area, that is almost unheard of around the world. Like, people just haven't seen any of that sort of stuff. I mean, to give you one example, we spoke to the Ukrainian government, who unfortunately, as based on what's happening in the war, need to really work out how to do building really fast in a lot of places and well and higher quality than what they've done in the past. And that person had said they'd seen everything. They'd been to New York. They'd seen all the different products that are available. They'd been on sort of a world tour. And, lovely person started clapping at the end of it and says, best thing he's seen by miles.
Yeah, wow.
So, that sort of stuff's sort of fun from a producing company to create these AI solutions, and a bit of fun in terms of, nice thing to say.
Yeah, it's great. And you mentioned council workers and I guess specifically planners or planning departments. What's been some of the feedback from those individuals in terms of your AI tool Daisy and how that's supporting their role or accelerating what's been the feedback from those individuals? Yeah,
so definitely positive, and definitely we need this to work this way sort of idea. So definitely the positive ones are, wow, okay, that's really good what the documents can do. So we do a lot of document checking and understanding, is this document the right document, and is it doing the right things? Is it renamed the right way? That first part sort of, really get excited about that. Mm-hmm. Then the next part that they sort of look at is, okay, hang on, we've seen a few of these. Does it actually integrate with our systems, and can it integrate with our systems? And that is, part of where the Civica sort of pieces come into it, where we've made sure now that what we've got doesn't live exclusively or unattached to their current systems, because the last thing they need is another cut and paste from another system. And so that's where that's sort of really quite important. So this is real excitement about what we're doing, because it's a lot easier and a lot faster, and they can use AI to do things that menial tasks that they haven't, and tedious tasks they haven't ever wanted to do in the past. And then the other part of it is, okay, but it needs to work with our systems, and got the same thing overseas. When people we have overseas have case tools, and we've spoken to a number of places over there about either partnering again to make this work, and have enterprise AI with ADAPTOVATE, creating a system that is not exclusive, but it's actually connected into their current workflows and helps them with that. And so that's probably the other part of the feedback. So they're really excited about what it does, love the AI, love what it does, needs to still connect into the way we work today, and can't be sort of standalone.
Yeah. I often get asked about the gap between ambition and reality in regards to AI.
AI theatre.
AI theatre, yes. And there's no shortage of organisations that we talk to, every day about becoming AI native. From your perspective and your experience from some of your global visits, where do most of these organisations fall short in that regard?
Right. So almost anybody today can create a demonstration of some business idea in less than a day.
Yep.
And that theatre is great in terms of being able to get on the same page. So there's some really good things about that in terms of alignment of, hey, yeah, that's sort of what I was talking about, or yeah, that makes sense, or that sort of design is, oh no, we don't want that workflow. We want it. That stuff's great, right? The bit that is missing is the thought and the understanding of how much it's going to take that screen and that demo and make it work. Mm-hmm. And for better or worse, we saw this a couple of years ago when we were doing this sort of work, with ADAPTOVATE and our clients in creating business processes and augmenting it with AI. And the reason that we kicked off, Enterprise AI 2 years ago was to try and meet that expectation of, hey, I've created a demo in a day that sort of tells a story, but then now we've got Enterprise AI for a platform that does all the governance and all the security and all the work that you need to do.
Yep.
You know, we've spent 2 years and significant dollars building that. And then on top of that, getting the org structure and all of that happening. So in terms of falling short, what's a little bit frustrating at the moment is you know, you can get 5 people demonstrating, you know, some sort of functionality that's similar to what you want every day. And very few of them will be maybe not even recognised, and that's where they're falling short. These companies not actually even sure about how long it's going to take to actually build something like that. And we've spent a lot of time and a lot of money working out exactly what it's going to take from both a business perspective and a culture and a structure and how's you going to change that with ADAPTOVATE, and then how you're going to run it in terms of sitting it on top of an enterprise AI platform so that the CIO, the Chief Information Officer and the Chief Information Security Officer and whoever else is in governance and compliance can look at it and say, yeah, okay, I understand what they're doing and I understand how that's going to fit with our structure and integrate with our systems and how that's going to make sense for us to use. So that's sort of the gap that I see in the market, if that makes sense, that there's this gap between the theatre and the reality. And
is that getting shorter? Are we seeing that gap shrink?
So certainly that's what we're doing.
Yep, I know we're doing that, but in terms of our clients,
look, I would argue as well that, and this isn't, I'm not really trying to have a go at consultants because I am a consultant. Let's be very clear to all the listeners out there. I have been for many years. It is counterintuitive, or it's against a consulting model. Like at the end of the day, no matter which way you buy something off a consultant, they still need to do time and materials. And unless the objective that they're delivering to is short term and hitting on that, then you know you're sort of not getting what the consultant should be delivering and aligned to what you need in terms of outcomes and speed. And so therefore, if I've got a big IT consulting firm, I'm going to be in a situation where I'm going to want to try and somewhat boil your ocean, and boil the ocean by trying to find all the data and all the problems that I need to fix to get this all governed and ready to go. And so I think in terms of your point, the gap between the theatre and the reality is I can give you a really good demo, but hang on, I need to fix up all the plumbing and all the data and all these things.
Yeah.
And that argument to me is not a valid argument anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I was talking a little bit about this at yesterday to a group of people in finance that one of the big areas that I think is going to change is from this idea of boiling the ocean and fixing all the data in your company, which includes all the duplicates and all the duplicate board papers and all the other things the mess that you've got. And rather than trying to fix all that, start curating and create a librarian style concept of understanding what's the most important business process or the ones that are actually going to deliver real value. How do I do them from end to end to get rid of all the bottlenecks? And then how do I, and this is sort of your demo. So this is the thing. So I can do a demo of that process, but then the real work comes down to, well, instead of doing all the plumbing and spending 6 months fixing all that, let's focus on the data we need to actually make that use case work, get it out the door in 6 to 8 weeks, start scaling it across a platform like Enterprise AI or something else, and then do the next one. And then if we can do just 1 in the first bit, then let's do 5 in the next one and then do 10 in the one after that. But you're really starting to build your capabilities around curating your data rather than boiling the ocean and trying to fix everything, because you're never going to get there, and it's not most of it's not value. There's no value in the business to do all of that. It's just a lot of money to spend to try and fix things you don't need.
You mentioned you spoke at a financial services sort of event yesterday, which I happened to be at as well, and a lot of the conversation was around how these banks and funds and sort of insurers, etc., are probably some of the most data-rich organisations and compliance-heavy environments that they operate in, and AI needs to operate within that environment. What are you currently seeing, or what have you seen from some banks and insurers who are genuinely making progress in that regard?
Yeah, so I will have a shout out to SimCorp yesterday. They hosted us yesterday. It was thank you SimCorp for that. It was great. And we also spoke a little bit about what the government's doing. So the government has put money behind APRA and ASIC in Australia, certainly, to try and help them with monitoring and doing compliance around that. So there's a real recognition that compliance needs to be a big part of what we're doing, to make sure that if you think of compliance and regulation, like I certainly try to, it's less about ticking the box and it's more about good business process and doing the right thing for your customers or doing the right thing for the way you're doing it. So if you focus on that, and once again, you get back to this idea of, rather than ticking the box and making sure I'm compliant, it's about what's the best way of delivering for our customer and then getting the regulator to understand that's why. And I've put these sort of governance in places. So the companies that are doing it and thinking about it that way are moving along. And so we were talking with one compliant industry about this, or industry, an advertising industry that needs compliance around their ads, which, it fits quite a big area. And the conversation got to effectively, hey, if we build this ability to do it, then we can be in a situation in a few that is really important for us in terms of, monitoring ads and making sure those ads are compliant based on what we need to say to the market. Then the regulator would really use this as well, right? And every other company in the market could use this sort of thing. And so that sort of thinking is very much focused, once again, on where's the value? How do I use AI across a business process to focus on that? And then how do I bring the regulator into the conversation around this is the best way of doing it for our customers and for us and for everything? And if that sort of focus is done, then that's where you'll see, and you see leading industries,
big shifts,
making a change and making it fast and bringing the regulator into the conversation, which is always happens anyway. Yeah. But if you can actually have them part of the platform you're talking about, then that's pretty cool.
Both sides of the compliance governance, sort of conundrum,
absolutely,
being served at the same time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, we'd like to sell to both as well.
we absolutely would. We absolutely would. So I might just sort of wrap this up by asking you a little bit around. If you're advising a CEO in Australia today, right now, financial services, local government, wherever in the market, on sort of where to place their, let's call it first AI bet, to get real measurable outcome, where would you suggest? Where would you start?
A lot of people would say this is wrong, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I always start with customers. If you think about what we did with building permits, we started with customers, and then we went to staff. And if you focus purely on AI as a productivity tool, and it's all about cost takeout, if that's sort of where your head's at, yes, it is. But let's just don't forget about revenue and better customer satisfaction and a better outcome. And I had a conversation recently with some people about call centres, right, as a classic sort of place where AI should eventually play really well. And they said, but it's really not ready. Nobody wants to talk to an AI bot. And I said, that might be the case during day hours. But if you've got a call centre that's only open between 8 and 6 or something in the day, and you say, hey, we're closed, but if you'd like to talk to our brand new, AI bot overnight, then that may be a completely different and positive thing. And I'll give you an example. What we've done now, it doesn't have voice. It can have voice, but nobody's chosen that yet. But more than 50% of the capacity that we've got on a chatbot that we've provided, so a Daisy AI assistant that we spoke about for building permits, more than 50% of the traffic comes in after hours. Now, that means that people are wanting to do stuff, as we know, right? People do stuff at night on the internet. They buy things, they look at things, they understand what's going on. If that sort of service is thought of as an add-on, for example, rather than, the technology's not ready for prime time, then that change in mindset is actually a place that I would think about. So there's all sorts of places where that sort of idea about providing a better service, either out of hours or a different service from what you actually provide today, that to me would be, and it's a pro for everybody. Like everybody gets something out of it. You're starting to test a new technology, understand what it can do for your business, and your customers are going to be surprised and delighted about it if it's put in the right way. So that to me would be a starting point. Is always start with your customers, and then off the back of that, you can be in a situation where you're trying to drive revenue, and then you can also do productivity improvements on the back of that as well through your staff, which is sort of exactly what we've done with building permits. If that makes sense. I just wouldn't ignore it, right? If that makes sense. Like, don't just think about this as this is how I'm going to replace employees. Yeah, maybe you are, maybe you're not, but what can you do on the revenue side of the ledger as well?
Yeah. You touched on mindset just now. And, we often get asked, is it a technology problem? Is it a people problem or something else entirely? How much of the AI, agenda would you say is down to mindset and sort of behavioural shifts required in organisations?
Look, it's hard to put a number on it, but I would say most of it in organisations, and it starts it's all over it. So let's say you are going to put AI into part of your organisation and you're going to try and augment humans with it. Mm-hmm. The first thing people are going to think today and probably tomorrow is, number one, is this taking my job? And, we've put a blog on Enterprise AI's website to try and address this sort of my job is exposed versus how adaptable am I? And I think it's a really good way of thinking about it, not for this conversation, but that is an answer that a leader can do. But straight away, you've got a mindset change where the leader needs to be thinking not just about, hey, I've been told now, or I need to get AI into the system to do it. It's like, what are my people going to think about being replaced by AI, or, the danger of losing my job and all this sort of stuff. And so that mind shift, or that conversation that leaders need to be having more and more up front before you even start on this. So that's sort of just the leadership part of it, which is just like tick box number one. Like, I've decided to do this. What am I talking to my people about? The next level down is then, making sure that those people are interested in actually partaking in this. And so, most businesses, well, a lot of businesses have put in the Copilot sort of, personal productivity tools where, people have improved their email and sort of stuff, and businesses haven't seen a lot of profit and loss improvement out of that, like either revenue or cost decrease or productivity or whatever. Why? There's lots of arguments. My view is that people have improved their ability to write emails and potentially come up with a detailed plan or a strategy, but is it actually changing significantly the bottom line or the top line for a business? No, it's not. Yep. That's where the process changes. And then whenever you're talking about making process change, you're going to need to change the mindsets of the people to do that. So starting with leaders, massive mindset change. Starting with agreement across leaders, where, who's the area that we're going to start in across a number of silos across this business. In the teams themselves, we're going to need to think about this as not just my piece of work that's going to improve me. It's not just Claude sitting next to me. I need to think about this as a process. Well, processes involve multiple people. Sometimes it involves multiple silos across an organisation. So the mindset shift and change is a huge part of what is part of any transformation, and certainly a part of AI. And then the last one is if you do take this to completion, and AI does touch, maybe not replace, but it touches every single process in every single business, from a customer facing to an internal to a back office, then the amount of culture change that people are going to need to do to actually learn this and understand what's going on and be willing to be trained in, I'm going to relearn and rechange and be part of the change of what I'm doing. Once again, that's a huge mindset shift and change for every business, and the adoption of it's big. So how big in terms of numbers? It's 86.5%.
Doug, as always, always insightful, these conversations with you. So thank you. We've traversed a number of themes and industry sectors. So thanks again, and join us for the next edition of the Backlog Podcast.
Thanks for the time, Dave.
Thank you.